you have any advice on dealing with food anxiety? This week, I had an after work happy hour to attend celebrating my team's work this week. I definitely wanted to go and I had a plan. I ate a Quest bar right before we left the office so I wouldn't be hungry. I told myself one glass of wine only, no food. I stuck to my plan, only ate a few chips and salsa while everyone else was killing a sampler platter of appetizers. But my issue was the hour before the event, I was so anxious. What if I drink 2 glasses of wine? What if someone orders a flatbread? What if everyone else orders a meal and I have to sit there while everyone else is eating? What if I get home and I'm starving and I eat everything in sight? Millions of what ifs. I stuck to my plan and everything was fine, but I made the whole experience horrible because I was so consumed with anxiety. All right, so I actually did a webinar on this. It's called Catastrophized Thinking, Anxiety Producing. Webinar 269. You must get all over that ASAP. Is webinar 269 all about catastrophe thinking? Oh my goodness, what could possibly go wrong? Everything could go wrong. When's the other shoe going to drop? It's all going to fall apart. Totally get it. I would like to see you create a situation for yourself where you create less anxiety, not more anxiety. And what I mean by that is you obviously had some really good thoughts because you said, okay, I'm gonna have the Quest bar first, brava. A really nice, and honestly, I take it even one step further. If you know these are going to happen, you could bring in almost an early dinner for yourself, maybe some chicken breasts, some vegetables, some whatever you like. Actually have a legit meal and really satiate yourself to where hunger is not in the equation, okay? And then what I want to do and suggest for you to do is take your worst case scenario. Let's take a look at what you put here. 2 glasses of wine was one of your big concerns. Flatbread, everyone orders a meal and I have to sit there while everyone else is eating. So what I want you to do the next time, I want you to put all of that in your food tracker. Yes, flatbread, 2 glasses of wine. You're going to maybe have a small meal. All that's going to happen because ultimately, think about it. You are creating a lot of internal anxiety over all these possible food choices you're going to have to make. If you give yourself permission to have them, guess what you've just done? Remove the anxiety around feeling like you can't have it. Okay. Now, the really cool part of this, by the way, is when you come back later and you go, oh, I didn't have 2 glasses of wine. I only had one. Let me remove one of those. I didn't have flatbread tonight. Let me pull that sucker off. I didn't have to have a meal tonight because nobody else ordered it. So I had a few chips and salsa. Let me change that too. So we start out on paper with the possible worst case scenario, the most horrific thing, and I'm saying this jokingly, the most horrific thing that could possibly happen. Flatbread, 2 glasses of wine, and a dinner entree. And we're going to put it in the food log. And then you go ahead and you say to yourself, I could have 2 glasses of wine. I tracked 2 glasses of wine. But tonight I'm going to opt to have one. In the moment, I'm going to make a really good choice. And then tonight, when I go back home, I'll alter my food log. You give yourself permission, you pre-track it, you own it, and then you can go back and take it off. And it immediately removes anxiety. A lot of people struggle with food anxiety. They worry about all the worst case scenarios. I'm going to go, there's going to be a buffet, there's going to be absolutely nothing I can have. Then go ahead and put all the food that could possibly be there, macaroni and cheese and fried chicken and this, that, and the other. Let's get the anxiety out of the way. Let's just squash the anxiety. Because what's going to be better for you? Is it going to be better for you to have had that full meal, not going in hungry, and no anxiety because you've already tracked everything you could possibly eat? And then you get to go back at the end of the night give yourself a little pat on the back, say hoorah girl, because you didn't actually do worst case scenario. You actually did far better than worst case scenario, but we never do that for ourselves, do we? Who does that for themselves? Who says, you know what, you're going on a really great shopping trip with your friend, let's give you the full amount of money that you could possibly want, and give you the opportunity to buy whatever you want, as opposed to being withholding. We tend to always withhold, be tight-fisted, be very regimented. One glass of wine, no food for you, right? We get into this mindset, and then we wonder why we're anxious and why it feels like such a chore and it feels so miserable. And it doesn't have to. What if we actually gave ourselves permission to have all those things? And we get to make the decision to opt out of it if we want to. It's crazy, right? But trust me when I say it actually builds self-confidence. It removes anxiety. It allows you to see on paper worst case scenario. One of the reasons my binge eating was so out of control is because I catastrophized it in my head. I didn't want to write it down. I didn't want to know how much I really ate, because it was much more suiting for me to say, oh, that was a 5,000 calorie binge. Heather, you just keep on going, girl. You've already messed up. Just keep that boat going. And that was my way of dealing with it. When I wrote it down and I realized, hey, not as bad as I thought it was. Interesting. So if I actually stop here, I could maybe save something. It could not escalate to that point. But in my mind, I catastrophized it. In my mind, I had anxiety about it. In my mind, I made it far worse than the reality. And this is what I'm going to encourage you to do. So if you're struggling with food anxiety, I want you from here on out, I want you to definitely feed yourself well before you go into any environment. A well-fed body is not going to be a body seeking out highly palatable food. Feed yourself well. And then I want you to think of the worst case scenario with the food, the macaroni and cheese, the deep fried chicken, the piece of cake, whatever. I want you to put it in the food log, claim it, put it in there. 2 glasses of wine, write it all down. Say, if you get in there and this actually happens, we've already logged it. We're done. But you don't have to eat this if you don't want to. If in that moment you opt out of it, we can come back in and take those things out. We can alter it. And we can actually allow you to build some self-efficacy, build some self-confidence, build some self-esteem around the fact that you're not going to go hog wild just because somebody ordered an entree or they had a flatbread. And even if you had a little bit of it, it doesn't mean that the whole night is blown. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's changing the rules a little bit by not forcing yourself to. So you have to imagine there's this huge road, okay? We're all traveling down it. We're all heading towards health and wellness, okay? And you have chiseled out literally like a centimeter of the road, and you said you are not permitted to go past this point. And you're like trying to walk on that little parameter of the thing where all of us are kind of over here and we're walking around, but we're all moving in the same direction. You want to think about that when you're feeling anxiety around food. Are you forcing yourself to be in this very confined space and kind of putting all these mental limitations on yourself that really don't need to be there? If you were just to have tracked all that food that was a possible worst case scenario that caused all that anxiety, at the end of the night, you actually did super well. And imagine how much better you would have been feeling to take things off that you did versus thinking you had to strong arm the night and then having to add things in and feeling like you failed. This is a reverse approach, okay? You can go in assuming best case scenario, I'm having 1 glass of wine, that's it. Or you can say, this is the possible worst case scenario I can think of. I'm going to claim it. And then I'm going to see where I fall and actually become curious about your choices. Become curious about the way that you're treating yourself and learning from yourself in this process. I would encourage you to be thinking about it like that to help with the food anxiety.